Hello and welcome to the news. To present, my name is Jeffrey Siampo. The headlines. Expelled PF Ron Member of Parliament Chishimba Kambwili says he is ready to defend his parliamentary seat. The ruling Patriotic Front has been urged to allow the party presidency to be contested ahead of the 2021 general election. Another news in detail. Expelled Patriotic Front Ron Member of Parliament Chishimba Kambwili claims President Edgar Lungu has always harbored hatred towards him from the time he appointed him Information and Broadcasting Services Minister. Mr. Kambwili has told a media briefing in Lusaka that this is what has led to his expulsion from the ruling party. He has complained that President Lungu has unfairly treated him, adding that he never evacuated him out of the country, even when he fell ill. Mr. Kambwili says this despite having contributed to President Lungu's election victory in the 2016 elections. He states that he helped the president amass enormous votes even in areas where the opposition UPND was gaining ground. Mr. Kambwili says President Lungu has shown his true colors after being given a 5-year mandate to govern the country. He says he will challenge his expulsion in the courts because he wants to defend the party of which he is one of the founding members. He has also declared his readiness to defend his parliamentary seat, adding that he will return the Ron seat fair and square.
Was left. And I didn't complain because I don't complain usually. So you can see that everything that has happened emanates from the fact that it is natural. You cannot force somebody to love you. Even as we were working, I knew the president doesn't like me, but I took the party because I love this party so much. I had to wait for the party. I had to wait for the president because he was the president of the party and he is the president of the nation. In Bemba there is a saying, Akatanshi takalisha, akalekelesho ekalisha. And if those two are anything to go by, you believe me that I have not been beaten. It is a temporal setback. In Bemba we said, umulume wambwa tafa kukulu. Umulume wambwa tafa kukulu. And there's another saying in Bemba that umwa ume tawa afukamafi. Umwa ume tawa afukamafi. At the moment, I am kneeling, I am not down. I may be down, but not out.
Meanwhile, Mr. Kambwili has disclosed that he has, on several occasions since last year, tried to engage President Lungu in constructive conversation with regards to the affairs of the party, but that his efforts have proved futile. He says people on the ground are not happy with what is happening in the party. Mr. Kambwili has stated that it is devastating that people who never fought for the PF's existence have become the most dominant in the party.
We are calling a central committee where we are going to resolve our differences, where we want everybody to pour out their hearts, everybody who has issues to come, so that once we leave that central committee, we leave as a united front. In short, the president misled the entire country and the entire world that the purpose of the Central Committee on Saturday was to reconcile our differences and move forward. Suffice to state that since I was fired as minister, I have made several attempts to meet His Excellency the President so that we can discuss one-on-one for us to find out where the differences are coming from PF. That effort did not yield any results. He has just been giving excuses.
Meanwhile, former Copperbelt Minister Mwenya Musenge says his expulsion from the ruling Patriotic Front is because of the advice he gave President Edgar Lungu on the arrest of UPND President Hakainde Hichilema. Mr. Musenga has told Q News that his expulsion is not the end of his political career, but a blessing in disguise, as he will now be able to speak his mind. He says he is pleased with the party's decision to expel him, as he is now going to form a political party to speak freely.
So forming another political party. Nobody should be hindered the process. If anything, let them aid us so that this political party is formed tomorrow and we meet on the battlefield. The future for the Patriotic Front, forming government in 2021, unless they do one thing. One, they reverse that statement they made, that it's only Edgar Chagwa Lungu Wamuyaya in the Patriotic Front. They reverse that, maybe there can be some glimpse of hope. Fielding Edgar Chagwa Lungu in 2021, I don't think.
Electoral expert McDonald Chipenzi says the expulsion of Rwanda Member of Parliament Chishimba Kambwili and former Copperbelt Minister Mwenya Musenge from the Patriotic Front is an indication of intolerance to divergent views by the ruling party. Mr. Chipenzi says the recent happenings in the Patriotic Front are showing that the party is pursuing a path of monocracy and autocracy as opposed to democracy. He says the ruling party does not believe in intra and inter-party democracy, stressing the need for the party to have self-introspection. Mr. Chipenzi has since advised Mr. Kambwili and Mr. Musenge to challenge their expulsion in the courts of law. But University of Zambia historian Houston Chiputa says expelled Rwanda Member of Parliament Chishimba Kambwili and former Copperbelt Minister Mwenya Musenge could not have been expelled had they respected the party's rules and regulations. Dr. Chiputa tells QTV News that each and every organization has its own rules and regulations which ought to be followed. He says having campaigned heavily for the ruling party in the 2016 elections, the duo could have exhibited some exemplary behavior to avoid what has transpired. Dr. Chiputa states that there is a thin line between intolerance and discipline, adding that the public should carefully distinguish the two as they analyze the expulsion of the duo.
The opposition, although he had campaigned heavily for the president and for the party, particularly on the Copperbelt and Northern Province. But then perhaps one would want to say that every organization has its rules and regulations, and those that aspire to be members or those that are members of such an organization have made those rules and regulations for themselves to follow. And sometimes some members may find themselves on the wrong side of those regulations, whether by design of themselves or by design of the others within, so that they use it to eject them. It depends on how the issues are handled. But
the Foundation for Democratic Process, FODEP, has advised the ruling Patriotic Front to allow the party's presidency and other positions to be contested ahead of the 2021 elections. FODEP Executive Director Mwenge Chimfembe says the ruling party should follow its constitution and go for a general conference to elect its presidential candidate. Mr. Chimfembe says the decision by the PF Central Committee to adopt President Edgar Lungu as the candidate for 2021 has a negative impact on the political scene, hence the need for the ruling party to set a good example.
2021 general elections, I think FODEP has been on record having said that we would want the PF, just like any other political party, to open up any positions for competition and election. It will actually be to their benefit, because if leaders are chosen in an environment where they have amassed support from their followers, you create unity. Unlike a situation where certain positions are enforced and so on, what ends up to happen is that you have cosmetic kind of support.
Meanwhile, Mr. Chimfembe has advised the Patriotic Front to encourage inter-party competition than threaten party members with divergent views.
I think our views are that just like any other institution, it plays by its own rules. So we may not come in to discuss the merits nor the demerits of what led to that action, except that if we are to make analysis based on the information that is, in the public, we can only say that the Patriotic Front ought to encourage an environment of competition and encourage of democracy. As you know, democracy is predicated on competition.
Finance Minister Felix Mtati says the value of trade between South Africa and Zambia reached $1.6 billion United States in 2016. Mr. Mtati says there is serious need to address the trade imbalance between the two countries, as trade is mostly in favor of South Africa. Speaking during a trade and investment mission for South African companies in Lusaka, Mr. Mtati says it is important to see to it that Zambian exporters make some strides in boosting trade with South Africa. And Mr. Mtati has challenged the investor community to take advantage of Zambia's comparative advantage, especially within the southern region, to make significant investments that would bring them appreciable returns. He is optimistic that the conference will deepen diplomatic and economic ties, as well as create opportunities for Zambian businesses to form partnerships with their South African counterparts.
You must be able to feel comfortable, and that is our job. So anybody else who tells another story, they are not being truthful, because here nobody is going to tap you behind. You are going to work freely and do and transact freely. My colleagues here will be able to tell you about the incentive structures, the priority areas, etc., because that's what they are good to. Me as a politician is to assure you that whatever you invest will be protected. Whatever you put in, you are going to make money. Whatever you put in, you are going to take money. So that we render meaning to that historical connection, because Zambia and South Africa have been connected historically, isn't it?
And Zambia's High Commissioner to South Africa, Emmanuel Mwamba, has called for balanced trade partnerships between Zambia and South Africa. Mr. Mwamba says the situation where South Africa is the only country benefiting from trade should be a thing of the past. He has also called for stronger economic ties between Zambia and South Africa to support the social and economic development of both countries.
One of the key foreign investors in our country is South Africa. So Zambia enjoys a lot of trading and business with South Africa. And this is demonstrated by the number of flights to our country. You know, South African Airways is a global carrier. It flies all over the world. But did you know that the number of highest flights it takes comes to Zambia? 35 flights a week. So you have 3 flights into Lusaka, 1 into Ndola, and 1 in Livingstone. This is before we come into other carriers. It just demonstrates to you the amount of movement of both cargo and our people between the two countries. Although especially the Minister of Finance and Commerce and Trade will come and speak about this,
And South African High Commissioner to Zambia, Sikhosi MG, has urged the Zambian government to deliberately come up with a strategic plan to ensure trade between the two countries is balanced. Ms. MG notes that South Africa is benefiting more in terms of trade compared to Zambia.
We have the same problem in terms of trade between ourselves and foreign countries. They always complain, Madam Ambassador, you are trading with us more than we are trading with you. And my advice was, trade with us. Yes, why are we trading more? Why don't you also meet us halfway? So, Mr. Mwamba, there's nothing that South Africa can do if Zambia doesn't privatize South Africa and say, because the balance of trade is always in their favor, we are going to do steps 1, 2, 3, so that the balance of trade is not always in their favor. But there's nothing we can do from our side. Because if our people want to be trading with Zambia, and therefore the volume of trade is always in our favor, the opposite can also be done. But it has to be done strategically. It has to be a planned kind of initiative. It won't just happen on its own. Particularly that we border 8 other countries. So we don't know how much of a priority we are to you. And
Zambia's High Commissioner to South Africa, Emmanuel Mwamba, is leading a high-powered delegation of 20 leading South African companies and business representatives on an outward trade and investment mission. The Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, CSPR, says there is need for government to start promoting the domestic private sector and improve on its productivity, as it is more sustainable to the country's economy than depending on foreign direct investment. CSPR Executive Director Patrick Nshindano tells Q News that such measures will ensure that the country's economy is more resilient from external shocks. He says if the local economy is well functional and boosted, the country will be able to withstand external shocks from the international market, such as the fall of copper prices. Mr. Nshindano states that it is therefore important that government starts figuring out ways in which it can help in empowering small, medium, and micro enterprises in the country, coupled with a foreign direct investment. Meanwhile, Mr. Nshindano says the country should not look at having maize bumper harvest, but also increase the production on cash crops such as soybeans to reduce the malnutrition levels in children. He notes that despite the country recording maize bumper harvest, there has been an increase in malnutrition levels in children. Government says it is integrating various interventions in the good agricultural practice systems aimed at minimizing the occurrence of mycotoxins in food. Speaking in Lusaka during the Regional Africa Cooperative Agreement for Research, Development and Training related to Nuclear Science and Technology, AFRA training course on method development and validation for mycotoxin analysis in food and feed, Ministry of Higher Education Secretary Owen Mugemezulu said contamination of food by mycotoxins has a negative impact of agriculture's contribution to the national gross domestic product. Mr. Mugemezulu stressed the need for various stakeholders in the nutrition and agricultural sector to come up with solutions that will address the diversity of mycotoxins that occur in foodstuffs. He has noted the important role that laboratories, good surveillance and monitoring systems play in effective policing of mycotoxins.
Furthermore, the aflatoxins are said to reduce immunity, hence could worsen the progression of HIV and AIDS. Clearly, the importance of assessing the diversity of mycotoxins that potentially occur in foodstuffs and the level of human exposure to them cannot be overemphasized. For the reasons I have stated above, a number of countries through various food safety agencies have set maximum permissible limits for various mycotoxins in foods and feed in order to safeguard their populace. Foodstuffs that are contaminated with mycotoxins above the set limits are often not accepted for human food and are rejected in trade.
Speaking at the same event, senior researcher from the National Research Institute of Italy, Dr. Michelangelo Pascal, stressed the need for African countries, in Zambia inclusive, to invest in programs that will address the challenge of mycotoxins in food.
We will see during this training course the problem of mycotoxins is a worldwide problem, you know better than me. And with this course we will try to give you some information about the problem relevant to mycotoxin contamination in food and feed, but mainly we will try to provide you information on analytical methods for the monitoring, for the control of this important contaminant in the food chain. And I'm very, very glad to be here in this nice country.
Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya says progress has been made in the procurement of 30 digital machines to be placed in various hospitals and some of the newly constructed health posts around the country. Dr. Chilufya says government is committed to ensuring that the health system enhanced by providing equipment such as X-ray machines, imaging equipment and other digital machines in most of the health posts and hospitals around the country. He says that the first batch of the 30 digital machines will soon be in the country as the procurement process has already been concluded. Dr. Chilufya has disclosed that government had put aside $2 million United States dollars to invest in 30 digital machines which will be placed in all first-level hospitals around the country.
The procurement is very advanced, and very soon we will be receiving these modern X-ray machines, placing them in all first-level hospitals. This is only phase one. There is another procurement for imaging equipment and other hospital equipment, which will help us equip all our facilities in the country to improve quality of services and also enhance our training of health workers.
The Poultry Association of Zambia, PAZ, says it expects to see a further reduction in stock feed prices in view of the maize bumper harvest the country has recorded. PAZ Executive Manager Dominic Chanda says the association is on a weekly basis receiving notifications from the stock feed millers on the reduction of prices for the commodity, with the recent being a 15 kwacha reduction per 50 kilogram bag. Mr. Chanda has, however, stated that a number of stock feed millers have withheld their maize, which they bought at a high price last year, because the poultry sector shrank by 4.8% in terms of broiler production and 26% in egg production. He says this triggered a huge impact on the uptake of stock feed, and most stock feed dealers did not use the maize they bought.
So those three factors have played a significant role in the reduction of the prices of stock feed. So starting from December, as I indicated, we started seeing the prices moving from averaging close to about almost 260 kwacha per 50 kg of broiler to the current 222 kwacha prices of broiler, which is almost 40 kwacha reduction in the prices of stock feed. And this equally goes across all the three stock feed prices in the broiler and all the four prices of stock feed in the layer subsector. So significantly, I think going forward, we are likely to see also further reduction, because I think on a weekly basis we are receiving notification from the stock feed millers, the reduction in the prices.
Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants ZICA President Jason Kazilimani has described the country's economic performance in the first half of 2017 as positive. He has attributed this to various economic factors, which include the stability in the exchange rate, the appreciation of the kwacha, and the lowering of the statutory reserve ratio by the central bank. Mr. Kazilimani is optimistic that the country will achieve positive economic growth by the end of 2017. And Mr. Kazilimani has encouraged companies owing the Zambia Revenue Authorities to take advantage of the tax amnesty, which expires on the 31st of July, to clear their outstanding principal tax liabilities. Mr. Kazilimani has told Q News that the tax amnesty, if well utilized by companies, will result in significant economic growth. National Institute for Scientific and Industrial Research Acting Executive Director Dr. Henry Njapau says the country lacks competent researchers to provide effective and up-to-date research data and information. Dr. Njapau has told Q News that while the country is doing very well in having the necessary equipment, it is lacking human resource to operate the equipment in order to obtain the necessary and required up-to-date data. He says the institute currently does not have competent staff because it needs highly qualified researchers who are currently not available. Dr. Njapau has noted the need for funding towards the training of competent staff.
What we need now is people, and those people are not always available. The level of competences we need is quite difficult to find, so we often try to train them ourselves, or we ask maybe cabinet office to assist us with the training or sourcing also. Otherwise, if you don't have the people, even if you have the equipment, it's like maybe if you are a transport company and then you start by hiring drivers instead of buying trucks. So the driver will be sitting there. So for us, we now have equipment. We now need to get people, competent, at very high levels of training.
To end the news, the headlines once again. Expelled PF-run Member of Parliament Chishimba Kambwili says he is ready to defend his parliamentary seat. And the ruling Patriotic Front has been urged to allow the party presidency to be contested ahead of the 2021 general elections. That's all we had in the news. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Bye-bye.